It's interesting, the idea of reframing the role or the title of supervisor, I think. Anybody else from a different program want to share what you talked about in your discussion? If there are any specific ideas, that kind of commitments you want to make moving forward?
Hi, I'm from UCSB. I can try to represent. Please, crew, help. I think what we've committed to doing is figuring out what we want to commit to do. So Sarah's created a table where we're going to share our takeaways from each session to kind of massage that out into what themes, where do we need to focus our energies and our resources, and what do we need to make space for, where do we need to push on ourselves, on others, on our colleagues. We're trying to sort out a plan, I think. Would anyone else put that differently?
And I guess just as we go through that process, just being mindful of the lens through which we're looking, to be broader than our own lens.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. I know, does anyone from our team at UC Davis want to piggyback on that?
Eva, I love your idea of just, there's been so much to process in these 2 days, just creating a Google Doc with each session, and then having every person from Davis who attended that session sharing their takeaways, I think would be very valuable to then kind of clarify where we should go next. I don't know, that I thought that's a great idea. Davis is trying to really reimagine our whole program, and we're in that process. So it's a really great timing for us that we can bring in all these really important ideas and the new resources through distance learning and all of those things additionally. So we're kind of at literally, where do we start? Should we be a grassroots group working grassroots? Should we be trying to really request and ask top-down direction? How do we even begin? So we're way at the beginning stages, but using Johnny's and many people's ideas of this, developing a community of practice and working very intentionally to build that is one of the takeaways, and obviously working to be a lot more intentional with anti-racist education and lenses, and creating space for that, and working to create space for our students of color to feel supported in a powerful way. And please, all Davis people, chime in.
Thank you, Beth. No, I think that really captured what we talked about. So
I'll speak for UCLA, but I don't really know what I'm going to say, and so all the UCLA folks, please, chime in. I really appreciate something that Leona shared. She's been teaching this summer with a new group of students, and just having students, they're new to this, but so are we. So every week they're sharing different practices for distance learning. It's just a really important reminder to always think of our students as experts, and just this Freirean concept of us all being teachers and all being learners. And that shouldn't just be the case during a pandemic, but all the time. So just really embracing that. And, something I feel really strongly about is I don't know. There's so much I don't know right now about what's coming up. And I really want to focus on getting to know our students, getting to know what they're seeing in the classrooms, and then developing and continuing to refine syllabi and our plans for field supervision and everything based on what we're discovering, and not putting anything set in stone. Of course, it's wonderful that we're all sharing ideas right now, but I'm just feeling really encouraged to stay present in with our students and their experiences. Anything else, UCLA folks?
Okay, thanks. You obviously did a great job. Yeah, I think it's important to recognize there's a lot of unknowns, and just, yeah, being present and not forgetting those relational pieces of it. So
I'll jump in for Santa Cruz again with
yeah.
an invitation for the other colleagues to speak. We discussed similar things that have come up, and in particular, a tension between, I guess we'd say, the current reductionist view of supervision and checking off the boxes of the TPEs, and wanting to reframe that and how we can do more look at developing student teachers more holistically. Another tension between thinking of our student teachers and their placements, and we at Santa Cruz also want to be more direct, whoever said it previously had a better word, with anti-racist and anti-abolitionist perspectives. But then the tension of our student teachers, teacher candidates having that perspective going into placement and even their first jobs, that with schools and cultures that won't necessarily respect and welcome those perspectives. So how do we support them, knowing those realities and those kind of things? And just overall, a sense from the conference or the meeting of just the wealth of resources. Too much to digest right now, but we've got a lot to dig into. So,
right. So what in our meeting, a little bit different, one of the things that was discussed was self-care. And I know this was mentioned yesterday in the keynote yesterday. We're talking a lot about, making sure the mental well-being of our candidates are where it needs to be, but we also have to be mindful of ourselves as teacher educators. And that for me has been a major burden. None of us have ever dealt with anything like this. And while we do have to make sure our candidates are getting what they need, we have to make sure our K-12 students that we're indirectly serving are getting what they need. We as teacher educators also have to make sure we are being fed into as well. Because if all of you is sucked dry, then you have nothing left to give. And so we have to make sure, and I think we also need to keep that centered as well, as how are you as a teacher educator feeling inside? How are you coping with what is going on? And so that's something that came about. And I want to make sure, I would like there to be spaces where maybe there's support groups for supervisors or something, just a place to connect. I know one of the things that came up in our meeting is like the connectivity that we once had, it's not there. It's like, I want to call out to this person, but it's just not there. So what are we doing to feed ourselves, to support ourselves, to make sure we're where we need to be mentally so that we can deal with the gravity of what's in place? So.
Thank you, Jamara. Yeah, that's a really important point. I know that connection piece, and that's part of our self-care, is that human connection. So I know our supervisors at UC Davis, we talked about just creating an informal community where we're going to reach out more often and, just start making those connections. So
something else I want to add, just as when we think about remote learning, our students, our K-12 students, they're learning from home, through the distance learning. But as educators, you're at home too. And if you have children, like in my case, my children's classroom is just to the left of me, okay? Right here in the office. So I just think about the supervisors working with their teacher candidates. Some of them have children themselves, or other family members, where everybody is just in the same room and you're just trying to work it out. And it's hard. So how do we figure out how to put in the right system so we can do the work of supervising? Is something also to be thinking about. So.
Well, Allie, you can feel free to jump in. But I think we could echo what Jermara was just talking about, because that really was, I think, a lot of the essence of our conversation is taking care of ourselves and each other. So, Allie, you want to have anything you want to add?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think that, yeah, exactly. I can relate a lot. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Tamara. And yeah, I mean, I think that social connection among supervisors and all of us is so important too. I mean, I don't know how to get to it, but I'm really glad to be here with you all today too. And I would love to get to know you all better too. I wasn't able to join as much yesterday because of childcare and drop-in office hours with some of my future supervisees for my methods course during the summer. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's really important. And for me, it's like the first layer. So thanks for making this space.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I mean, that's one idea we could talk about a bit more right now, is just how to keep this community going and alive and connected. So I don't know if people have ideas about that, but I have talked about a mid-year, another conference, but maybe there's some interim opportunities to connect that we want to think about.
Do you think it would be nice to have a Facebook group, or where people could, or maybe people don't do Facebook, okay, but something like that, like a group where you can come and say, hey, I tried this out, or hey, I remember somebody talking about this, but what was it, or whatever, ongoing the long conversation that Johnny's talking about.
Yeah. Maybe a listserv where I know someone talked about, just sending out frequent communications or a way. Anybody want to add to this idea?
It'd be helpful, Lisa, if it was identified by, grade level or subject or whatever, because I think reaching out to some other social science folks, we might have some similar situations, share their programs, might be doing some things that we might consider. So
I'd like to just share, there is the upcoming fall conference for the California Council on Teacher Education. And I've gone many times, and unfortunately, there's very little UC representation there. And so maybe this could be a place where we could also build more collaboration.
I agree, because I've gone, it's mostly the Cal States there. So other ideas about ways to continue maybe this conversation and connections?
Lisa, I'm also really interested in what people are reading professionally right now. I'd be really intrigued to see what is an article or a book that is moving people in their practice. I always value that from colleagues.
I just want to say, Lisa, in our conversation in Davis, we talked about Flipgrid and making videos to kind of introduce ourselves to our student teachers, introduce themselves, and maybe our resident teachers, vice versa, or us. We could do a Flipgrid for all of these people too.
I like that idea.
Where each person could create a video, explain what they're about, what their interest is, and all of that. So that's just one more way to connect.
I'm going to pull up the Padlet and we can keep talking, but I'll share my screen and we can start dropping notes in there just with kind of highlights. And I want to just thank you again for all of your amazing comments and feedback on the evaluation form. It was so great to just read through last night and see. Can you see it on my screen, folks?
Yes, we can see it on your screen.
Thank you so much. I never. So as you're typing, I want to just, and any of our team who wants to chime in, just say a huge thank you to all of you for participating. And I thought the conversations and just the tone was so great. There was such an openness to share and collaborate, and I feel like it's given us all some new energy to carry forward as we start working with student teachers. And so thank you so much to everyone. Anyone else from our planning team want to add to that, please do.
Lisa, I just want to thank you so much for putting this together. It was really your brainchild, and Casey worked so hard on it. And I know you had help from a very big team, but it's, you know, you were the first face we saw and the last face and voice that we're seeing. And can't tell you how appreciative I am that you dreamed this up and made it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Yes, it was definitely a team effort. Lots of great contributions from our team. So, but thank you for that. Anyone else final thoughts?
I would just second what Celeste said. Thank you, Lisa, for leading this out. This has been a really great event. So thank you. And thank you to all of the presenters and all the organizers and the attendees.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. It was kind of one of those things, if you build it, they will come, I guess. We were hopeful and folks came. So it was so nice to see. And then hear the appreciation. And we were talking in our small group, I think there's been sort of a vacuum that these conversations haven't been happening, or they've been happening in informal spaces and in small ways. So I think it's really nice to have this more formal, dedicated time for these conversations. So I'm excited to continue these. I don't want this to be the end. So the more you can advocate for a mid-year meeting as well as some ongoing meetings at your programs, please do that, because I think we need to keep these conversations going. So, all right, well, thank you for your comments on the Padlet. I'm gonna read through them. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time so much.